Captain Lee Do-hyun stared at the view screen as his ship moved through the dark space near Kepler 442. The exploration vessel New Seoul had been searching for new worlds for 3 months now. Earth needed more places for people to live. The population was growing too fast. "Captain, we have something on the scanner," said Officer Kim Nara from her station. She was the ship's expert on alien life forms. Her voice carried excitement mixed with worry. "What kind of something?" Lee asked, walking over to look at her screen. "Unknown ships, 3 of them, they look damaged, and there's something else. The ships are being attacked by smaller vessels." Lee watched the data flow across the screen. His training told him to be careful. Earth had only learned to travel faster than light 50 years ago. They had never met another intelligent species before. "Are the smaller ships winning?" he asked. "Yes, sir. The large ships are losing badly. I'm reading life signs on the big ones. Lots of them." Lee made his choice quickly. "All stations, battle alert. We're going to help the losing side." His crew moved fast. The New Seoul was not a warship, but it carried weapons for protection. They had never used them against aliens before. The battle was already ending when they arrived. The small attack ships were dark and ugly looking. They moved like hungry animals around the larger vessels. The big ships were beautiful. They looked like they were made of crystal or glass. They sparkled even in the darkness of space. "Open fire on the attackers," Lee ordered. The New Seoul's weapons were simple but effective. The attacking ships had not expected help to arrive. They tried to fight back but were caught by surprise. After 10 minutes, the surviving attackers ran away into deep space. Kim Nara worked at her station, trying to understand the signals coming from the crystal ships. "Captain, I think they're trying to talk to us." "Can you understand them?" "Not words, but they're making music. Beautiful sounds, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze." The sounds filled the bridge. They were unlike anything human ears had heard before. The music seemed to express gratitude and relief. Even without understanding the language, everyone could feel the emotion in the sounds. "Captain," said Communications Officer Park Ji-ho, "I'm getting a message from Earth Command. Admiral Park wants to know our situation." Lee smiled. Admiral Park Ji-ho was his old friend from the academy. They had served together on 3 different ships before Lee got his own command. "Tell the Admiral we've made first contact." The friendly, kind. Over the next hour, Kim Nara worked with the alien ship's communications. The crystal beings called themselves the Vorthak. They were travelers and miners who had been attacked by space pirates. The pirates wanted the valuable minerals the Vorthak had collected. The Vorthak leader's name sounded like music when spoken. Kim Nara wrote it down as Quilnith. Through simple pictures and sounds, Quilnith expressed deep thanks for human help. The Vorthak had thought they would all die. "They want to show us something," Kim Nara reported. "Quilnith is sending us coordinates. I think it's their home world." Lee felt excitement growing in his chest. Humanity's first alien friends. This would change everything on Earth. "Send the coordinates to Admiral Park. Ask for permission to visit their world." The answer came back within hours. Earth Command was thrilled. President Yoon Sung-jae himself had approved the mission. Humanity would send diplomats to meet the Vorthak people. 2 weeks later, the diplomatic ship Seoul's Pride arrived with a full team. Commander Choi Min-ho led the group. He brought gifts from Earth, music recordings, art books, and examples of human technology. Dr. Kim Nara joined the mission as the expert on Vorthak communication. The journey to the Vorthak homeworld took 5 days. The crystal beings' ships were slower than human vessels, but they made the trip together like a parade of friendship. The Vorthak homeworld was amazing. Huge towers of crystal rose from the surface like frozen music. The buildings sang in the wind. Cities covered entire continents, all made of the same sparkling material as the Vorthak themselves. "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," whispered Dr. Kim Nara as they landed. The Vorthak people gathered to welcome their human guests. Thousands of crystal beings stood in perfect formations. They made music together that sounded like a choir of angels. The harmony was so perfect, it made some humans cry with joy. Elder Quilneth met them at the landing platform. Through Kim Nara's translation, he spoke of the Vorthak history. They had once been warriors who conquered many star systems, but they had learned that war brought only pain. Now they chose the path of peace and harmony. We spread across the galaxy not as conquerors, but as teachers, Quilneth explained. We help other species learn to live in harmony. Violence creates only more violence. Mercy and understanding create lasting peace. Commander Choi was impressed. Your people have found great wisdom. The Vorthak showed their human guests around their cities. They saw how different alien species work together on Vorthak worlds. The Vorthak called it harmonization. Everyone had their place and purpose, but Dr. Kim Nara noticed things that worried her. The other species on Vorthak worlds always did the hard work: mining, farming, building. The Vorthak themselves seemed to only give orders and make music. When she asked about this, the Vorthak explained that some species were naturally better at physical work. Each species has its perfect role in the greater harmony, Elder Quilneth said. We Vorthak are gifted with wisdom and leadership. Other species have different gifts. Kim Nara also noticed that the other species never spoke for themselves. They only made sounds when the Vorthak made certain musical tones. It reminded her of how trained animals responded to commands. She tried to talk to some of the non-Vorthak workers, but they only stared at her with blank expressions. Their eyes seemed aware, but their faces showed no emotion at all. Something's wrong here, she told Commander Choi privately. Those other species aren't acting normal. They're like robots or slaves. Be careful with those words, Choi warned. We can't judge alien cultures by human standards. Maybe this is just how their society works. The final ceremony was held in Ni, the largest crystal tower on the planet. Thousands of Vorthak gathered to honor their human friends. They sang together in perfect harmony. The music was so beautiful that several humans wept openly. Elder Quilneth made a long speech about friendship between species. He spoke of how humans had shown mercy by rescuing them from pirates. He promised that this mercy would be remembered forever. Let us show you the true gift of our people, Quilneth said. The gift of perfect harmony. The music changed. It became deeper, more powerful. The crystal towers themselves began to sing along. The sound filled every corner of the great hall. Commander Choi smiled and reached out to shake Quilneth's crystal hand. But as their hands touched, something terrible happened. The music became a weapon. The harmonic frequencies struck human nervous systems like invisible hammers. One by one, the diplomatic team fell to their knees. Their bodies stopped obeying, their minds. They could think and see and hear, but they could not move or speak. Dr. Kim Nara watched in horror as her friends became prisoners in their own bodies. She understood now why the other species on Vorthak worlds acted like robots. They weren't willing servants. They were slaves whose minds were trapped while their bodies obeyed Vorthak commands. Elder Quilneth's musical voice filled the hall, but now Kim Nara could understand the true meaning behind his words. Your species speaks much of mercy and compassion, he sang. These weaknesses make you perfect for harmonization. You will serve the greater good, and your minds will remain aware to appreciate the honor. Commander Choi tried to speak, but only strange sounds came from his throat. His body walked forward without his permission, joining a line of other newly harmonized beings. Through tremendous effort, Captain Lee Do-hyun managed to activate his emergency communicator before his body was completely controlled. He sent one word back to his ship before his hands stopped obeying him. Mercy. The Vorthak had counted on human kindness. They had studied the diplomatic messages from Earth. They knew humans would debate the ethics of violence against apparent allies. They had seen how humans hesitated to harm those who claimed friendship. Human mercy had become the trap that doomed them all. As the last human fell under Vorthak control, Elder Quilneth sang a song of satisfaction. Another species had been added to their great harmony. Soon, all thinking beings in the galaxy would sing the same perfect song under Vorthak guidance. They had shown mercy once by revealing their true nature to humanity. Now, humanity would learn what it meant to be harmonized forever. Admiral Park Ji-ho sat in the emergency meeting room deep inside Earth Command headquarters. The single-word message from Captain Lee Do-hyun had arrived 6 months ago. One word that changed everything. Mercy. The room was filled with Earth's most important leaders. President Yoon Sung-jae sat at the head of the table, his face showing the weight of terrible decisions. Around him sat generals, scientists, and diplomats who were trying to understand what had gone wrong. "Show them the recording again," Admiral Park said to his aide. The wall screen lit up with the last transmission from the diplomatic mission. The image was shaky and broken, but clear enough to show the horror. Commander Choi Min-ho and his team walked in perfect lines like robots. Their eyes were wide and aware, but their bodies moved without their permission. Dr. An Seo-hyun, Earth's top expert on alien minds, pointed at the screen. "Look at their faces. They're still conscious, still thinking. But something else controls their bodies now." "The Vorthak call it harmonization," said Intelligence Officer Kim Dae-woo. "We've managed to decode some of their communications. They turn other species into living slaves who keep their minds but lose control of their actions." President Yoon felt sick watching the recording. How many of our people are trapped like this? The entire diplomatic mission. 47 humans. And we think they're being used to gather information about Earth's defenses. The meeting was interrupted by an aide who ran into the room with a message pad. "Sir, we have an incoming transmission. It's from the Vorthak homeworld." "Put it on screen." The image that appeared made everyone in the room gasp. Captain Lee. Do-hyun stood in front of the camera, but something was terribly wrong. His body stood perfectly straight. His voice was his own, but the words he spoke were not. "People of Earth," he said in a flat tone, "I speak for the Vorthak Empire. You have seen our gift of harmony. Your diplomatic team now serves the greater good of all thinking beings in the galaxy." President Yoon stood up from his chair. "Lee, if you can hear me, we're going to get you home." Captain Lee's face showed a brief moment of pain, but his body continued speaking. "The Vorthak offer the same gift to all humans. Submit peacefully to harmonization, and your species will find its perfect place in the galactic order. Resist, and we will take what we need by force." The transmission ended. The room fell silent. General Lee Tae-hoon was the first to speak. "They're using our own people against us. This is a declaration of war." "We don't know that for certain," said Ambassador Kang Hyerim. She led the peace faction in the Global Assembly. "Maybe we can negotiate, find some middle ground." "Middle ground?" General Lee slammed his hand on the table. "Did you see that recording? They turned our people into puppets. What kind of middle ground exists with slavers?" Dr. An Seo-hyun had been studying the transmission data. "I've been analyzing Vorthak communication patterns. They don't see other species as equals. To them, we're all just resources to be harvested and used." "That's your opinion?" Ambassador Kang replied. "We should try diplomacy first. Send another mission with better protections." "And give them more humans to enslave?" General Lee shook his head. "Every day we debate, they're probably attacking more worlds." President Yoon looked tired. "What do our intelligence reports show?" Intelligence Officer Kim pulled up a star map. "We've detected Vorthak ships moving toward our outer colonies. 3 fleets, each with about 50 vessels. They're not hiding their approach." "How long before they reach our people?" "The first fleet will hit New Hanyang in 2 weeks." The room erupted in angry voices. Some called for immediate military action. Others demanded more attempts at peaceful solutions. The argument went on for hours while precious time slipped away. Finally, President Yoon made a decision. "We'll send a warning to our colonies. Tell them to prepare defenses but avoid shooting first. Maybe we can find a peaceful solution." General Lee looked disgusted. "Sir, with respect, peaceful solutions don't work against species that use peace as a weapon." But the decision was made. Earth would try diplomacy while preparing for the worst. The worst came sooner than expected. 2 days later, urgent messages began arriving from the outer colonies. The Vorthak had not waited for Earth's response. They had struck 12 human settlements at the same time. The pattern was always the same. Vorthak ships would arrive broadcasting messages of peace. They claimed to be refugees fleeing from the same pirates that had attacked them near Kepler 442. They asked for temporary shelter while their ships were repaired. Human colony leaders, following Earth's traditions of helping those in need, allowed the Vorthak ships to land. Within hours, the harmonization process began. Colonel Kim Ji-won managed to escape from New Hanyang by sacrificing half her soldiers to buy time for a few transport ships. Her report made everyone on Earth understand the true horror they faced. They didn't just enslave the adults, she told the emergency assembly. I watched them harmonize children, 5-year-old kids walking in perfect lines with their minds trapped inside their own bodies. She showed video from her escape. Human children played in a Vorthak camp, but their play was mechanical and emotionless. They moved like tiny robots, programmed to act happy. The children could still think, Colonel Kim continued. I could see it in their eyes. They knew what was happening to them, but they couldn't stop their bodies from obeying. The Global Assembly finally understood what they were fighting. This was not a war between armies. It was a war between philosophies. Human compassion against Vorthak exploitation. But the debate continued. Ambassador Kang still believed in negotiation. If we respond with violence, we become no better than them. If we don't respond with violence, there won't be any humans left to be better than anyone. General Lee replied. The argument was settled by another Vorthak transmission. This time, the harmonized human speaking to Earth was President Yoon's own daughter, Ambassador Yoon Minji. She had been serving on a trade mission to the Centauri colonies when the attacks began. Her voice was her own. Her words expressed love for her family. But between her loving messages, she delivered the Vorthak ultimatum with perfect clarity. Dad, I love you and Mom so much, she said with tears in her eyes. Earth must surrender all human colonies to Vorthak guidance within 30 days or systematic harvesting of human populations will begin. Then her expression changed to the blank stare of the harmonized. Resistance will result in the termination of unsuitable genetic lines. Compliance will ensure optimal placement within the galactic harmony. President Yoon watched his daughter deliver his species' death sentence in her own voice. The Vorthak had made their message clear. Human mercy and love would be used as weapons until humanity submitted or died. That night, President Yoon signed the order that changed human history. Forever, the Terran Defense Force was authorized to use any means necessary to protect human life. Rules of engagement were suspended. Mercy was no longer a requirement when fighting species that weaponized compassion. They showed us mercy once, President Yoon said to his cabinet, by revealing their true nature. Now we show mercy to our children by ensuring no human will ever again mistake kindness for weakness. The age of human innocence was over. The age of necessary brutality had begun. Captain Bang Ji-hoon pressed his back against the cold metal wall of the mining tunnel. For 3 months, he and 42 other survivors had lived like rats in the asteroid belt around New Hanyang. Above them, Vorthak ships patrolled the system, using human crews that had once been their friends. Captain, we have movement, whispered Sergeant Oh Min-suk from his watch position. 3 Vorthak patrol ships heading toward Sector 7. Bang looked through his cracked helmet at the ships passing overhead. One of them was the former human transport ship Morning Star. He could see human figures moving around inside, but he knew they were no longer truly human. They were harmonized slaves whose minds were trapped in their own bodies. Any sign they detected our hideout? He asked. No, sir. But they're using Lieutenant Park's ship to scan for survivors. They know all our hiding techniques because they have our people's memories. Bang felt anger burn in his chest. Lieutenant Park Soo-jin had been his friend for 10 years. Now her knowledge was being used to hunt down the few humans who had escaped. Harmonization. Dr. Lim Ji-yeon crawled through the narrow tunnel to join them. Before the attack, she had been a peace activist who protested Earth's military spending. Now she spent her days building weapons from mining equipment. I've finished the sonic disruptor, she said quietly. It should work against Vorthak nervous systems if my calculations are right. Should work? Bang raised an eyebrow. We only get one chance to test it. The frequency has to be exactly right or it won't affect them at all. The weapon looked like a modified mining drill with speakers attached. It was ugly and crude, but it represented something new in human warfare. They were learning to fight an enemy that used sound as a weapon. "When do we try it?" asked Sergeant O. "Tomorrow," Bang decided. "The supply convoy comes through Sector 4. We hit them fast and hard." That night, Bang couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the old days when humans believed that mercy and understanding could solve any problem. Those days felt like ancient history now. The attack came at dawn. The Vorthak supply ship moved slowly through the asteroid field, confident that all threats had been eliminated. 3 human ships escorted it, piloted by harmonized crews. Bang's team struck from multiple directions. Dr. Lim's sonic disruptor fired its focused sound beam at the Vorthak ship. The effect was immediate and terrible. The Vorthak crew screamed in frequencies that hurt human ears. Their crystal bodies began to crack and shatter under the sonic assault. Within minutes, the alien ship was drifting dead in space. But the human escort ships were still dangerous. Bang watched through his scope as harmonized humans tried to fight back against their own species. The sight made his stomach sick. "Target the escort ships," he ordered. "Use the freedom frequencies." Dr. Lim had discovered that certain electromagnetic pulses could break Vorthak control over harmonized humans. It didn't always work, and sometimes it caused brain damage, but it was their only hope of saving enslaved humans. The liberation signals hit the escort ships. Bang watched as some human crew members suddenly stopped moving in perfect unison. Their faces showed confusion and pain as their minds regained control of their bodies. "This is Captain Lee Sunho of the transport ship Dawn's Hope," came a broken voice over the radio. "Are there free humans out there? Please help us." Bang felt tears in his eyes. "This is Captain Bang Ji-hoon. You're free now. Welcome back to the Resistance." The rescued humans brought terrible news and wonderful intelligence. The Vorthak were not the only species in the galaxy that used empathy as a weapon. They belonged to something called the Confluence, a group of alien races that specialized in exploiting the kindness of other species. "There are dozens of them," explained Dr. Park So-young, who had been harmonized for 2 months but retained some memories. "The weeping ones who pretend to be refugees, the nurturing caste who pose as teachers, the pain sharers who claim they can absorb suffering. They've perfected the art of turning compassion into conquest," added Captain Lee. "Each species targets different human emotions and virtues." Bang sent this information to Earth immediately. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not just fighting one enemy, but an entire network of predators who had mastered the exploitation of mercy. Earth's response was swift and decisive. General Oh Seo-kwan took command of all human military forces. His first order changed everything about how humans fought wars. Effective immediately, all humanitarian protocols are suspended when dealing with suspected Confluence members. His message read, "Rules of engagement are canceled. Our new mission is simple. Kill them, all before they can use our kindness against us." The transformation of human military doctrine was complete within weeks. Commander Ryu Hyunwoo led the first official strike against a Vorthak convoy using the new tactics. His ships carried sonic weapons designed specifically to cause maximum pain to crystal-based life forms. "No warnings, no surrender offers, no prisoners," he told his crews before the attack. "We show them the same mercy they showed our colonists." The battle was brutal and one-sided. Human ships had been redesigned for war against empathy-exploiting species. Every weapon was calibrated to cause specific types of damage to known Confluence member biology. The Vorthak ships tried to broadcast surrender messages using harmonized human voices. In the old days, humans would have hesitated. Now they knew better. "Ignore all communications from enemy vessels," Commander Ryu ordered. "Their surrender offers are just another manipulation tactic." Within an hour, the entire Vorthak convoy was destroyed. The few surviving harmonized humans were treated with liberation frequencies, but many had suffered permanent brain damage from their enslavement. Dr. Lim studied the rescued humans with growing horror. The harmonization process gets worse over time. These people have been enslaved for months. Some of them may never fully recover. The medical reports were sent to Earth and distributed throughout human space. Every colony leader, every ship Captain, every soldier learned what happened to humans who fell into Vorthak hands. The psychological impact was exactly what human leadership wanted. Mercy became associated with betrayal of innocent victims. Compassion toward Confluence members became seen as cruelty toward their slaves. Admiral Nam Jisoo addressed the reformed Terran Defense Council with words that would become legendary throughout the galaxy. They showed us mercy once by revealing their true nature. Now we show mercy to every species they would enslave by ensuring the Vorthak never again manipulate compassion into conquest. Human ships began hunting Vorthak fleets throughout the sector. They used tactics that would have horrified pre-war humans. No surrender was accepted. No prisoners were taken. No mercy was shown to species that weaponized mercy. But the most significant change was philosophical. Humanity had learned that true compassion sometimes required terrible actions. They chose to become monsters, so that innocent species would never again fall victim to empathy-exploiting predators. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could become when they stopped being kind to the cruel. Fleet Admiral Jung Hyun-soo stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Incheon's Resolve, watching 200 human warships move into attack formation. Today would end the Vorthak threat forever. The operation was called Iron Symphony, Humanities, planned to turn the enemy's greatest strength into their destruction. All ships report ready for synchronized attack, announced Communications Officer Lee Hee-jin. Her voice was calm, but everyone on the bridge could feel the tension. Admiral Jung looked at the tactical display showing Vorthak positions around their home system. Dozens of crystal ships moved in perfect harmony, their crews communicating through musical frequencies that had once seemed beautiful to human ears. Today we teach them a new song, he said to his crew. Begin Iron Symphony. The human fleet moved forward like a wall of death. Every ship carried sonic weapons designed by the best scientists on Earth. Dr. Shin Yoonji had spent months studying captured Vorthak technology to create these new tools of war. Captain Song Min-seok led the fighter squadrons in the first wave. His small ships carried sonic torpedoes, weapons that turned Vorthak communication frequencies into weapons of mass destruction. Remember, the stronger their harmony, the more damage our weapons will cause, he told his pilots. Their greatest strength is now their greatest weakness. The first sonic torpedoes hit the outer Vorthak ships. The results were beyond human expectations. The Vorthak crew's harmonic communication network carried the destructive frequencies throughout their entire fleet like a virus of sound. My God, whispered Dr. Shin from her observation post on the science vessel Busan Dawn. Their whole communication system is amplifying our attack. They're destroying themselves. Vorthak ships began to break apart as their own crew's panic created feedback loops in their harmonic network. Crystal bodies shattered from the inside as their communication frequencies turned against them. But Dr. Shin's job was not to watch the enemy die. She was there to monitor the liberation of harmonized humans. Her equipment sent specific electromagnetic pulses designed to free enslaved human minds without causing permanent damage. Liberation frequency active, she announced. I'm reading human life signs on 17 enemy ships beginning rescue operations. The process was heartbreaking to watch. Harmonized humans suddenly regained control of their bodies in the middle of a battle. Many were so damaged by months of slavery that they couldn't understand what was happening. Commander Baek Dongyun led the ground assault teams that would land on the Vorthak homeworld. His soldiers wore special armor that protected them from sonic attacks while amplifying their own sound weapons. Ground teams prepare for planetary assault, Admiral Jung commanded. Remember, our mission is intelligence gathering and human rescue. Leave no Vorthak alive to harmonize more victims. The crystal cities of the Vorthak homeworld had once been symbols of harmonic civilization. Now they became tuning forks that amplified human sonic weapons. The beautiful spires that sang in the wind became instruments of their creator's destruction. Grand Elder Thessalian tried to broadcast a surrender message, but human forces had learned not to trust any communication from Confluence members. His words were ignored as human sonic bombardment reduced his crystal palace to dust. This is Commander Bayek to all ground units, came the report from the planet's surface. We've found the harmonization facilities. There are thousands of humans here from dozens of different species. The liberation of the harmonization centers revealed the true scope of Vorthak evil. Beings from across the galaxy had been reduced to living puppets. Many had been enslaved for years, their minds trapped while their bodies served their crystal masters. Captain Lee Sohyun interviewed the rescued prisoners to gather intelligence about other Confluence members. What she learned made her blood run cold. The Vorthak were just one member of a much larger organization, she reported to Admiral Jung. There are species that specialize in exploiting every positive emotion that thinking beings can feel. The rescued humans spoke of the Weeping Ones, creatures that appeared as desperate refugees to trigger protective instincts in other species. Once given sanctuary, they would gradually take control of their hosts through emotional manipulation. They described the nurturing caste, beings that posed as wise teachers offering to share advanced knowledge. Their lessons slowly replaced indigenous thinking with dependency-creating ideas that left civilizations helpless without their guidance. Worst of all were the pain sharers, entities that claimed they could absorb the suffering of others. Compassionate, species would allow them to help with their problems, only to discover too late that the pain sharers were feeding on agony and creating more of it. Each Confluence member has perfected techniques for exploiting specific virtues, Captain Lee explained. They've turned every good quality that thinking beings possess into a weapon against them. As the Vorthak homeworld burned, Admiral Jung faced a terrible choice. Intelligence reports showed that other Confluence members were already moving to fill the power vacuum left by Vorthak destruction. If humanity returned to their old ways of mercy and diplomacy, they would face the same fate again. General Quan Mirai delivered the decision that would reshape human civilization in a transmission from Earth. Every species that preys upon compassion will learn that humanity's mercy has limits. We choose to be monsters so that genuinely peaceful species never need fear becoming victims. The surviving Vorthak were not offered surrender terms. They were not relocated to reservations. They were not given chances to reform their society. Humanity had learned that some evils were too dangerous to allow continued existence. The last Vorthak died defending their crystal nurseries where young Vorthak learned to harmonize other species. Human soldiers found chambers full of enslaved children from dozens of worlds, all being trained to become perfect servants. No mercy for those who show no mercy, Commander Beck reported, as his teams destroyed the facilities. These children will be free, and no more will take their place. The Iron Symphony ended with the complete extinction of Vorthak civilization. Not a single crystal being survived to carry on their legacy of exploitation. Their beautiful harmonic cities were reduced to silent dust. But the operation's true success was measured in the thousands of beings freed from harmonization. Species that had been enslaved for generations suddenly found themselves able to think and act freely again. Dr. Shin worked for weeks helping the rescued beings recover from their mental trauma. Many would never fully heal from years of slavery, but all of them were grateful to be free. "The humans saved us," said a liberated alien who had been enslaved for 5 years. "They became terrible so that we could be safe. We will never forget their sacrifice." Word of the Vorthak extinction spread throughout the galaxy faster than light-speed communications. Species that had lived in fear of Confluence exploitation began to hope that freedom was possible. But other Confluence members also received the message. They learned that humanity would not be manipulated through mercy. They began to prepare new strategies for dealing with a species that had learned to be merciless when necessary. The Iron Symphony was over, but humanity's war against empathy-exploiting predators had only begun. They had proven they could destroy one type of monster. Now they had to face all the others. Admiral Jung looked at the empty space where the Vorthak homeworld had been. "Send a message to all human colonies," he ordered. "The first verse of our song is complete. Prepare for the symphony to continue." 5 years after the last Vorthak died, Supreme Commander Han Jae-ho reviewed intelligence reports from across 50 star systems. The Terran Expeditionary Force had become the galaxy's most feared protectors, hunting down empathy-exploiting species while defending their victims. "Show me the Weeping One's situation," he told his aide from behind his desk on the command station New Earth. Lieutenant Yu Jinwan activated the holographic display. "Sector 12, sir. They've been posing as war refugees for 3 months. Local species on Harmony Prime has given them shelter and supplies. Commander Han studied the data. The Weeping Ones were masters of emotional manipulation. They appeared as desperate survivors from imaginary disasters, triggering the rescue instincts of compassionate species. How many locals have they infected so far? Conservative estimate, 20,000. The Weeping Ones embed parasites in their hosts during what appears to be grateful embracing. The hosts slowly lose free will over several months. And the locals still don't suspect anything? No, sir, the Weeping Ones are very good at what they do. They time their manipulation perfectly. Just as hosts begin to question their behavior, the parasites complete neural takeover. Commander Han made his decision quickly. Deploy Hunter Group 7, full sterilization protocol. Captain Cho Sung-yun commanded Hunter Group 7, Humanities Specialist Unit for dealing with Weeping Ones. His ships were equipped with biological scanners that could detect the alien parasites even in early infection stages. The mission was always the same. Arrive at the infected world, identify all compromised beings, eliminate the Weeping Ones, and provide medical treatment for early-stage victims. Late-stage victims were beyond saving. This is Captain Cho to Harmony Prime Control, he broadcast, as his ships entered the system. By order of the Terran Protection Authority, this system is under quarantine. All beings will submit to biological scanning. The response came from infected local officials whose minds were already partially controlled. Human ships, you are not welcome here. Our refugee guests have committed no crimes. Leave immediately. Captain Cho felt the familiar sadness that came with these missions. The local species was genuinely trying to help what they thought were suffering refugees. Their compassion had become their doom. Begin scanning operations, he ordered his crew. Any being showing parasite infection over 60% is beyond recovery. The battle that followed was one-sided and heartbreaking. Infected locals fought, desperately to protect their Weeping One guests, not understanding that they were already becoming puppets. Captain Cho's forces had to kill thousands of victims to save millions more from infection. When the fighting ended, only 12 Weeping Ones remained alive. Captain Cho personally executed each one with a sonic weapon designed to cause maximum pain before death. "Why do you hurt us?" the last Weeping One asked, its form shifting between beautiful and pathetic appearances. "We only sought shelter from our enemies." "Because you're liars," Captain Cho replied, pulling the trigger, "and we've learned not to show mercy to manipulators." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other human forces dealt with different types of confluence threats. Lieutenant Commander Moon Yongji led the investigation into the Mentoring Collective on the world of New Learning. The Mentoring Collective were perhaps the most subtle of all Confluence members. They appeared as wise teachers offering to share advanced knowledge with younger civilizations. But their lessons gradually replaced indigenous thinking with dependency-creating concepts. "The infection is deep here," Dr. Kim Hyun-woo reported to Moon's team. 3 generations of locals have been educated by the mentors. They can no longer make decisions without mentor approval. The local population worshipped their mentor teachers as gods of wisdom. They had forgotten how to solve problems, create art, or even think independently. Everything required mentor guidance. "It's the perfect crime," Moon observed as she watched local leaders wait for mentor permission before speaking. "They've stolen an entire civilization's ability to think. The liberation of New Learning required destroying not just the mentors, but also all the corrupted knowledge they had spread. Human teams had to burn libraries and schools, erasing centuries of contaminated education. We're destroying their entire culture, protested one of Moon's officers. No, she replied firmly. We're giving them the chance to rebuild a real culture, instead of living as mental slaves. Dr. Kim Hyun-woo studied the psychological impact of humanity's new role as merciful monsters. His research showed troubling trends among human soldiers who had to kill innocent victims to save them from worse fates. We're asking our people to commit acts that violate every human moral instinct, he reported to Earth Command. The psychological strain is enormous. Many soldiers suffered from what Dr. Kim called necessary evil syndrome, the mental anguish of committing atrocities to prevent greater atrocities. Some requested transfers to non-combat positions. Others asked to be discharged entirely, but most continued their missions despite the psychological cost. They understood that someone had to bear the burden of doing terrible things to protect the innocent. The breaking point came when the Confluence deployed their ultimate weapon, the innocents. These were genuinely peaceful species that had been selectively bred and culturally modified over generations to carry Confluence bioweapons without knowing it. Admiral Yu Jongmin faced the worst decision in human history when the innocent fleet approached Earth's outer colonies. Intelligence confirmed that the aliens were truly peaceful and unaware of the plague they carried. They honestly believed they were seeking trade and friendship. But they also carried a bioweapon that would kill every human in the galaxy within months of exposure. They're real refugees this time, Intelligence Officer Park Dongjun reported with a sick expression. The Confluence destroyed their home world and infected them with weapons they don't know they carry. Admiral Yu looked at the data showing 300 ships full of genuine victims approaching human space. Men, women, and children who had lost everything and now sought help from the species they had heard would protect the innocent. How long do we have before the bioweapon activates if they reach our colonies? 72 hours after first contact. The plague is designed to spread through normal social interaction. Handshakes, shared meals, even breathing the same air. And there's no way to cure them? None. The bioweapon is integrated into their DNA. They'll die if we remove it. Commander Jang Soo-young volunteered to lead the mission that would destroy the innocent fleet. Her forces intercepted the refugees 3 days from the nearest human colony. The innocent ships broadcast messages of hope and gratitude as they approached. They had heard of human protection and believed they had finally found safety after losing their home world. Please, came a transmission from their lead ship. We have children aboard who have never known peace. We only seek a place to rebuild our lives. Commander Jang felt tears streaming down her face as she gave the order that saved humanity by murdering the innocent. All ships, open fire. No survivors. The destruction of the innocent fleet broke something in the human military command structure. Too many soldiers requested transfers or discharge. Others simply stopped following orders that violated their moral programming. The solution came from an unexpected source. Elder Resonance of Sorrow, one of the few Vorthak who had survived the war and genuinely reformed, addressed the Human High Council. You have become what we feared to be. The crystal being sang in frequencies that conveyed deep emotion. Protectors so terrible that evil itself flees your approach. This is not corruption of your mercy, but its highest expression. You suffer, so others need not. You damn yourselves so innocence can flourish. You have learned the hardest truth in the galaxy, that true love sometimes wears the face of absolute cruelty. The reformed Vorthak's words helped human forces understand their new role. They were not becoming evil. They were becoming the guardians who stood between evil and innocence, accepting damnation to preserve hope. Humanity had learned that being merciful sometimes meant being merciless to the merciless. They chose to bear the burden of necessary evil so that truly peaceful species could sleep safely among the stars. The galaxy was beginning to understand what humans had become. Angels who had chosen to appear as demons rather than let demons appear as angels. 20 years had passed since Captain Lee Do-yun sent his final message from the Vorthak homeworld. Ambassador Lee Jin-hyun stood before the Great Assembly, representing humanity to over 300 species that now lived freely under human protection. We learned that true compassion sometimes requires monstrous acts, he told the gathered representatives. We choose to bear that burden, so others need not. The Great Assembly Hall was built on New Earth, humanity's first colony beyond the solar system. The building's design honored both the species humanity had saved and those they had destroyed to protect the innocent. In the gallery sat representatives of the Confederation of Protected Worlds, the keepers of gentle songs, whose crystalline music had once made them easy targets for sonic predators. The soft builders whose empathic architecture responded to the emotions of its inhabitants. The dream sharers, who communicated through shared mental images that made them vulnerable to psychic manipulation. All of them were alive and free because humanity had learned to be merciless to the merciless. Fleet Admiral Kim Dae-ho commanded the deep-range patrol from his flagship Seoul's Thunder. His forces pushed ever deeper into uncharted space, seeking new civilizations that might need protection from empathy-exploiting predators. "New contact in Sector 97, reported his aide, Lieutenant Commander Park Soo-hyun. "Species calls. Themselves the Harmony Seekers. They're broadcasting messages of peace and requesting aid." Admiral Kim felt the familiar chill that came with first contact situations. 20 years of experience had taught humanity that peaceful first messages often hid predatory intentions. "Deploy full scanner arrays," he ordered. "Run the complete empathy exploitation detection protocol. If they're genuine peace seekers, they'll understand our caution. If they're predators, they'll reveal themselves when our defensive measures frustrate their plans." The new protocols developed by Director Cha Min-ji's xenological assessment teams had proven remarkably effective. Species seeking genuine aid welcomed human caution as evidence of protective wisdom. Species attempting deception grew frustrated and revealed their true nature when their manipulation tactics failed. "Scanner results coming in, sir," reported the science officer. "The Harmony Seekers show classic predator patterns. Their ships contain bioweapon laboratories and neural control equipment. Their peaceful messages are being broadcast by enslaved crews from at least 6 different species." Admiral Kim nodded grimly. "Launch attack formation. No warnings, no surrender terms, full sterilization protocol." The battle lasted only minutes. Human weapons had been perfected through decades of fighting empathy-exploiting species. The Harmony Seekers had expected to face naive, compassionate beings who would hesitate to harm apparent peace seekers. Instead, they met forces that had learned to identify and destroy predators without mercy. "All enemy ships destroyed," reported the tactical officer. "We're detecting escape pods with enslaved crews beginning liberation procedures." Back on Earth, Dr. Lim Hee-kyung continued her research into empathy exploitation techniques at the Human Institute for Protective Psychology. Her work had helped dozens of species recognize and resist manipulation tactics before they became victims. "The predators are evolving their methods," she explained to a class of alien diplomats learning human protective protocols. "We've identified 17 new manipulation techniques in the past year alone." Her students came from across the galaxy, species that had requested human training in recognizing empathy-exploiting predators. The classes were always full, as word spread that human knowledge could prevent entire civilizations from falling victim to confluence tactics. "Remember," Dr. Lim told her students, "genuine suffering never demands immediate action without verification. Real refugees welcome security screening. True teachers encourage independent thinking. Authentic healers never require total trust." The Bide Memorial on New Earth honored both human sacrifice and alien victimhood. Captain Lee Do-yun's name was carved at the top of the memorial wall, followed by every human who had died learning the galaxy's true nature. Below their names were listed the species counts of beings humanity had failed to save before acquiring the necessary wisdom. President Yoon Ji-sung, grandson of the diplomat who had been harmonized in the early days, visited the memorial every year on the anniversary of first contact. He always brought flowers for both the human and alien sections of the monument. "Grandfather," he whispered to Ambassador Yoon Min-ji's name on the wall, "we learned from your sacrifice. No one else will fall into the same trap." But the galaxy continued to test human resolve. Captain Oh Young-sok encountered the Harbingers, beings of pure energy who claimed to offer transcendence while secretly consuming consciousness. The first contact protocols identified them as predators within hours. "Energy beings attempting consciousness harvesting," he reported to Deep Range Command. Beginning dispersal operations. The Harbinger Collective was scattered across 3 star systems within a day. Their victims, dozens of species whose consciousness had been partially consumed, were freed through electromagnetic therapy developed by human scientists. The most significant moment in recent human history came when humanity encountered Vorthak refugees, survivors of their own species near extinction who claimed to have genuinely reformed. Elder Harmony through struggle led a group of 200 Vorthak who had escaped the destruction of their home world. They petitioned for recognition as a protected world member, offering to share their knowledge of confluence tactics in exchange for sanctuary. The debate in the Human High Council was fierce. General Song Jae-wook argued that some crimes could never be forgiven, that allowing any Vorthak to survive risked future manipulation attempts. But President Yoon Ji-sung made the choice that defined humanity's ultimate evolution. We show mercy to those who have truly changed while remaining forever vigilant against backsliding. The reformed Vorthak were granted provisional protected status under strict monitoring. They provided intelligence that led to the discovery and destruction of 12 hidden confluent strongholds. As humanity's influence spread across the galaxy, ancient automated systems began responding to their presence. Warning beacons left by long-dead civilizations activated when human ships approached, broadcasting messages in human languages. Warning: empathy-exploiting species detected in this region, came a message from a beacon near the galactic core. Recommend extreme caution when offering aid to unknown species claiming distress. The messages confirmed what humanity had suspected. They were not the first species to face empathy-exploiting predators. Many civilizations had learned the same hard lessons, but few had survived the learning process. Captain Lee Sun-min discovered the most significant beacon near the edge of the galaxy. The message it broadcast was longer than the others and contained detailed information about confluence tactics. To the species that learns this lesson and survives, you have earned the right to protect others. The galaxy needs guardians who understand that mercy shown to the merciless is cruelty to the innocent. The beacon's message continued with coordinates to hidden databases containing the collective knowledge of extinct civilizations that had fought similar battles. Humanity gained access to millions of years of accumulated wisdom about identifying and defeating empathy-exploiting predators. With this new knowledge, human forces became even more effective at their mission. The phrase, human protection, became synonymous with safety throughout the galaxy. Peaceful species sought human guardianship, while predatory species fled to the darkest corners of space. But humanity never forgot the cost of their transformation. Every human child learned the story of Captain Lee Do-hyun and the price of naive mercy. They learned that their ancestors had chosen to become feared so that innocence could flourish. The stars themselves seemed to acknowledge humanity's role. Ancient civilizations had left markers throughout the galaxy, and now those markers activated in human presence. They recognized humanity as the inheritors of a tradition stretching back millions of years. The tradition of species that learned to be terrible to preserve the possibility of good. In the end, humanity had shown the galaxy what it meant to love something enough to damn yourself protecting it. They had etched their name into the stars not as conquerors, but as the guardians who understood that true mercy sometimes required absolute ruthlessness. The galaxy whispered their name in 1,000 languages. The species that had learned the hardest lesson of all and chosen to bear its burden. They had become legends not for their cruelty, but for their willingness to be cruel so others could remain kind. Humanity had shown mercy once by saving the galaxy from its own compassion. Now they stood eternal watch among the stars, ensuring that evil would never again disguise itself as innocence seeking aid.